let's go over not the most flattering view, just like you're like, what the heck? Get ready for drum lessons that are coming from my neck today. Anyways, at least you can see, that's the most important thing, is let me try to get even better practice pad view. Let's see. Okay, that looks better because you can see the pad, right? Good. There may be like light flickering that's happening, so, obviously not great quality, but hopefully gets the point across to what, you should work on. Let's talk about triplets. I feel like triplets, these are 8th note triplets, but I'm going to play them really fast, so they're going to sound more like 16th note triplets, because my metronome only does up to 8th note triplet subdivision. So, easy enough to, if you just put your metronome on quarter notes, just think of like 16th note triplets would be 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet and triplet, 3 triplet, da 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 da, right? Da 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 da. But this is 8th note triplets, but I'm going to make it sound like it's 16th note triplets because I'm putting it to a high speed. Okay, so this is right now on 130 beats per minute, okay? If you want on your metronome to just put it on half of that tempo, like if you put it on 75 or 80 BPMs and just put it to quarter notes and just think of like da 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 da, right? Then you'll get the same sound, right? So here's that tempo. What I'm trying to do is maintain my accenting, right, left, right, left. Also, just trying to really stay relaxed, okay? Don't want the accents to be too much, because we're trying to get this thing up to a fast speed. So I'm just, just to give it that sound of triplets, da 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 da. Without accents, look what it sounds like. It almost sounds like 16th notes, right? So that's why we want to put some sort of an accent in there, so that you have that sound of triplets, right? Da 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 da, as opposed to, it's going to sound like 1E and a 2E and a 3, right? When we want 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet and triplet, 3 triplet and triplet, 4 triplet and triplet, right? Now I'm going to start speeding it up, okay? So then let's go and just see what happens if I put it on to, here's 150. So I'm bumping it up 20 BPMs. I'm not saying to do this. Maybe go 5 BPMs every time you increase, and you want to try to get this thing above 200 BPMs at some point, right? I'll show you what that looks like. I can play this thing up to, I don't know, probably on 8th note triplets, I could probably reach almost 300 BPMs, right? So that would be 150 BPM roughly at 16th note triplets, right? That's probably the max that I could do it at, and that's not going to look pretty at that tempo. Probably, for me, it only looks pretty up until about 135 to 140, and then from there, I'm going to have to like overcompensate to get that tempo, right? Anyways, here's a faster speed. So notice that it's still the same motion, right? You got to practice this stuff, because we're trying to work on efficiency, essentially, okay? Still very relaxed, right? I'm going to start speeding it up even more. Notice my stick height, not super high, right? I don't want too much, right? Keep going. I'm at 220 right now, 8th note triplets, right? Notice I've still got those accents. Okay, keep going. One, two, three, four, 1. And then I'm going to go max tempo for this metronome, which is 250. So essentially this is going to be like playing 125 beat per minute, 16th note triplets, because I have mine set to, the highest subdivision this metronome goes to is 8th note triplets, right? but that means that if I'm playing 250 BPM eighth note triplets, it's like playing 125 BPM 16th note triplets, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so here's 250. Still very much under control for the most part, right? Notice the stick height, right? Lower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You know, I'm not saying you need to be able to do these speeds, right? This is just an example of what you need to work on, right? Okay, so then let's go back to quarter notes. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this with quarter notes. So say I'm on quarter notes, which is probably what you should use for your metronome tempo. You need to be able to like let's go to a slow speed, like I don't know, let's start at 90. Or even slower than that. Let's go to 75, which would have been like kind of the tempo that I started out in the beginning with, which was about 150, right? With eighth note triplets. Now I'm going to count 16th note triplets with a quarter note pulse. So 1 triplet N triplet, 2 triplet N triplet, 3 triplet N triplet, 4 triplet N triplet. It's hard to count it, but you can play it. That's 16th note triplets at 75 beats per minute with a quarter note pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what I would do, is I would start off, use quarter notes, think of 16th note triplets, da 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 da, and then from 75 BPMs, which is what I'm at now, with a quarter note pulse, start speeding up 3 to 5 BPMs each interval, and try to see what tempo you can get to. Let's take it back to let's talk about double strokes. Okay, let's forget about the metronome for now. Double strokes, right? So what I want you to think about with double strokes is, of course, you know, you want to make them pretty much sound like a single stroke roll, right? Single stroke roll, double stroke roll. I want to have consistent strokes happening. I don't want this sound right here. I hear that with everybody, dude. Like, so I'm not saying that that's you, but you know, you don't want that sound, because that's going to be inconsistent. That's going to break down on a drum set completely. We want to be able to eventually have double strokes be able to transfer over to, now we can use those on a drum set, you know. Okay, another thing you can do is, so I have a towel on the practice pad, as you know, right? Okay, I'm going to double up the towel so it's very thick now, right? Okay, I want to still be able to play the same thing, right? I'm going to put my metronome tempo onto, let's do 120, okay? I'm not saying that you should start here, but, you know, and I'm going to do this for a number of minutes. Not right now, but this is just an example of, like, the way that I practice, right? Okay? So if I can play on this surface, which has no bounce, look at that bounce. No bounce whatsoever. It's almost like a floor tom or something like that, right? You know, it's not a snare drum that has a ton of bounce, right? You know, of course, that's a lot of bounce, right? It only bounces like 3 times. So I want to be able to still play. I want to be able to make the bounce happen with my wrist and finger strength, okay? Control, develop control. Here we go, 120. Think of 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. So you know, the inclination that you're going to have is, when you go onto a really surface with no bounce, is this. You're going to have this happen. You're going to, the second stroke is going to become weaker, right? Like, we don't want that. We want it to be, right? That way we can play double strokes and actually have them function on a drum set, right? Because a lot of times we need double strokes for things like ghost notes or shuffle beats or whatever you're doing, right? Or drum rolls even, for that matter. There's no way you can do a double stroke roll on a drum kit if you can barely do one on a practice pad, right? So first of all, develop your double stroke rolls, period, right? Second of all, try to, once you can do your double stroke rolls better, try to use a very non-bouncy surface, right? So that you can start to condition. We want to condition those wrists and fingers, right? Okay, so same thing with paradiddles, right? Paradiddle. Or a double paradiddle. Or a triple, right? Think of the Tommy Igoe, right? or a paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle. Same thing with the left, paradiddle diddle. Or the paradiddle diddle combination, right? Paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle. That's the right side, and then the left side, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle, right? Right? Keep in mind, this is that really non-bouncy surface, right? So if I take it to the bouncy surface, if I just have my towel regular, 2 layers, it was 4 before when I had the non-bouncy, right? So 4 layers. Sometimes I'll even go 8 layers, man. Like, make it really hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, how do you think this happened? This is the only reason. That's the only reason that I can do that, right? Paradiddle diddle at 230 beats per minute or whatever that is, right? Very fast. Think of like a paradiddle diddle, because you have 6 strokes in a paradiddle diddle, right? Paradiddle diddle, okay? 1 accent, 5 taps. Paradiddle diddle. I'm whispering because the quieter strokes, right? So the thing that comes to mind is stick height, right? We don't want to have, that's not going to work, right? Sounds terrible. Can't play it beyond 100, whatever, 30 beats per minute. It's just not, it's not usable, right? We can't, anybody that plays paradiddle diddles like that, I would argue you're not playing paradiddle diddles, you're just hacking, right? You're hacking. So we don't want to be hackers. Check it out. We want to play with dynamics, right? Dynamics means we got to have loud hits, not loud, but like louder hits, accenting, and then taps, right? No matter what speed I'm playing it at, it's that same technique, right? If I start speeding it up, you can see that there's like an accent and then 5 taps, right? Right, left, right, right, left, left, right, left, right, right. Paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle. Okay? Same thing with the left. Right? We want to have evenness with both sides, okay? So things that you can work on with that. Work on taps. Taps are just very, almost like ghost notes, right? But very low stick height. I would say like 1 to 1.5 inches, no more than that. You don't want, this is not taps. That's starting to become accents, right? You know? Developing control, right? Same thing with the paradiddle. Paradiddle, paradiddle. We don't want paradiddle, paradiddle. Not going to work, right? Totally dysfunctional beyond 120 beats per minute, right? I would even say before that, 100 beats per minute starts to break down, right? We need to have a consistent sounding paradiddle, right? Just like a single stroke roll or double stroke roll. Paradiddle. Obviously, it's going to sound different because you have the accents, right? Right? Okay? One last thing. Finger control, right? Start with your unison strokes, right? Try to get your fingers to work, not your wrists. And then start to develop a drum roll, right? So I'm pulling with my fingers up. I'm pulling my fingers, you know, right? This is your fulcrum, index and thumb, and then you have these 3 fingers that are pulling, right? It's okay if your elbows come out a little bit for this kind of thing, right? You need to set a metronome for this kind of stuff too. Like, I'm saying here, this is what I'm saying. Any of the stuff that you're working on needs to be able to be played for 2 to 5 minutes without stopping, okay? That means that you have to start with tempos that are reasonable. These are all like very fast tempos that I'm demonstrating, right? And that's just so you can see what is possible with this stuff, right? Think about it. If you need to play a double stroke roll, you know, when you play a double stroke, you have the downstroke and then the upstroke. Well, guess what? The upstroke is all fingers, right? I'm snapping the stick back into my fingers, right? If you only have the downstroke, your double stroke is going to sound like this. It's going to sound like a buzz roll or something, right? So if you want your double stroke to sound the same on both downstroke and upstroke, guess what? Finger control needs to be obtained, right? And this is something that I didn't look at for so many years about developing finger strength and control, right? So, you know, these are all like fundamental things, right? Also, just working on your single stroke rolls, okay? Make sure you lead with the left hand sometimes, right? Left, right, right? Beat 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and then with the right, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Try to play single stroke roll with no accents. You don't want to be like this, dude. You don't want to be, you know, like, that's only one accent pattern of 256 different ways that you can accent a single stroke roll, right? So, I know that sounds crazy, but literally that's one of 256 ways. If you always do this, that means you're playing less than 1% of what's possible, right? You're always practicing less than one. I'm talking like 0.1% or less than what's possible. We get stuck in these like zones, right? And I get it, you know, because this is like so much easier to do than. But think about it. If you can play with no accents, then you're able to start playing any accent that you want, and you have more freedom to experiment with things and create different drum fills and like different, you know, different sounds with your drum fills and beats and stuff, right? So this is all about developing control. Think of this video as, you know, the key to success with developing the C word, which I call control, right? Even though it's not a 4-letter word, most people they hear me say that word control and they know that I'm saying you're out of control if I say that word, that means that somebody's out of control. Oh, we got to develop control. Well, that implies you're not in control, right? It's not a good thing. We want to be in control. These things take so much time to develop, dude. You have to start now because this is years of work that I'm talking about, man. This isn't, oh, hey, I did Brian's video for 1 or 2 times and now I'm as good as he is, right? It's not going to happen, dude, right? This is years, dude. I've been playing drums for 31 years. You know, granted, the first maybe 5 to 10 years of that was, you know, I wasn't really getting serious with technique, right? I would say this is technique development, and conditioning, right? Understanding fundamentals of how your body mechanics works. How does our bodies work in relation to a pad? Because then eventually that's going to be in relation to the drums, right? How do we apply what we know here to a drum kit and actually be musical with that, right? This is just one step of many steps to, you know, getting better on a drum set. But I would say this is the most important step for where you're at right now. I would argue that this is way more important than this. Because without this is impossible to play well. Yeah, you can force it. You can power it and you can make it happen, but it doesn't sound good though, right? Or it doesn't sound as good as it could because lack of technique is making you force it and you're having to like get stiff, right? Anything that's stiff, look at stiff strokes, listen to how they sound. I'm not saying that's you, right? But listen to relaxed grip. Stiff, relaxed. Look how much louder it is if I'm just relaxed because I'm letting the stick bounce, right? Developing the bounce of the stick, right? Everything that we do requires a good bounce and developing coordination, finger coordination, wrist coordination, arm motion, right? Fluidity, not stiffness, okay? Avoiding stiffness at all costs. That's what the practice pad does, is it helps us develop fluidity in our playing, right? So that we can sound good on a drum set, man, and we can have more fun. Bottom line, dude, bottom line, have more fun. It's a long video, dude, I know, but these are the concepts that if you just work on this stuff every day, I'm talking, you need to do this every day. This is something that isn't going away. If anything, it's one of those things we try to avoid the most is doing the practice pad workouts, right? Well, guess what? All we're doing by doing that is we're just putting ourselves in a deficit, meaning at some point, one day, we're going to have to look at this, right? If you wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're literally putting the brakes on your progress of becoming a professional drummer. Not saying you got to be the next, Taylor Hawkins or whatever, but you could be. You could be with not that much work too. These are the things that got that guy to that point, is having a firm understanding and development of basic fundamentals on a practice pad. And that's another thing I want you to think about is, dude, as crazy as it is for me to say this, like, this is basic stuff, dude. This is basics for a drummer, all the stuff that I just went over right now. At that tempo, too. This should be easy for you to play. At some point, you need to have control over that and master all that stuff that I just showed you right now. And have that be stuff you do on a daily basis and more. Those are just basic patterns. Like, I'm talking, there's 50 different rudiments. We need to be able to have all of those rudiments, like, fine-tuned at some point, and be able to play them all to high tempos and low tempos while tapping our feet at the same time and working on independence between limbs, learning a lot of different patterns, even besides those basic 50 ones right there. So it's a lot of stuff, dude, but here's the thing, man. You can get there. You just got to start now, though, right? So don't wait, dude. Don't wait another year. You've waited long enough, dude, and this is for a lot of people that I'm going to send this to, and they're going to have to listen to me, like, rant about the same stuff, and they're probably going to be like, yeah, Brian always tells me this stuff, and, he's always harping on me about this and that, and you get to look at my chin this whole video. It's classic, right? But, dude, trust me, man, like, I would not lie to you. This is absolutely the utmost of importance for you to start developing, right? Forget about all the stuff that, you're learning this song and then you got to learn this song and that song. That's secondary to this. This is important. This is the most important thing that you can do if you want to become the drummer that you have in your mind that you can be, right? Unfortunately, we think something in our mind, that doesn't necessarily make it true, right? Those are just dreams that we have, right? Dreams aren't reality. Reality is you got to do some work, and you got to sweat. Blood, sweat, and tears, man. Your wrist is going to be hurting. You're going to be frustrated. I can't do that paradiddle-diddle like he does. Well, guess what, man? More repetitions on this equals the key to success. Get to work.